Discover the entire Brazilian agricultural innovation ecosystem. Digital agriculture is one of the themes of AgriTalks, a series of conversations about production and technology in agribusiness. Sign up and participate.
Namaskar, and a very warm welcome once again to this panel discussion of AgriTalks India-Brazil. This 90 minutes of deliberation is trying to explore the collaborations between India and Brazil in the field of agriculture, how the two countries can come closer, collaborate with each other, and also to discuss how technology is playing a major role in transformation of the entire agriculture sector. Brazil is one of the countries in the world which has got an unparalleled agricultural ecosystem, and much of this transformation has taken place because of the role of technology, how technology has actually transformed the entire Brazilian economy, in particular the agricultural economy. So, what are the lessons for both the countries? How both the countries can join hands and scale up their cooperation in the agriculture sector, and also how both the countries can join hands and contribute towards meeting the global food security. So, with this theme, it's my pleasure again to welcome eminent speakers to this panel discussion number 2 of today's program, Towards the Future of Food Security with AgriTechs. Before this, we had an inaugural session wherein the theme of the program, Agricultural Innovation and Food Security, was addressed by the Brazilian ambassador to India, as well as India's additional secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, who gave their perspective of the Indo-Brazilian cooperation in the agriculture sector. Then we had an initial panel discussion wherein we focused upon the technological cooperation for agricultural efficiency, wherein we had speakers from both the countries. And now moving on to panel number 2, the second panel, it's my pleasure here to welcome Mr. Dharani Kant Goganti, Assistant Vice President, Agri and Fisheries, Invest India. Welcome to the program, Dharani Kant.
Thank you.
Please join me in welcoming Mr. Alexandre Amaral, Advisor at Embrapa's Directorate of Research and Development. Welcome to the program, Mr. Alexandre. We also have with us Mr. Daniel Trento, Open Innovation General Coordinator in the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Supply, Brazilian government. Welcome to the program, Mr. Daniel Trento.
Thank you.
And then we have also Dr. Rabi N. Sahoo, Principal Scientist, ICAR, Indian Agricultural Research Institute. Welcome to the program, Dr. Sahoo. And in due course of time, we would also be joined by one more speaker from Indian Institute of Millets Research, Dr. Vilas A. Tonapl. This panel discussion would be moderated by Mr. Dharani Kant Goganti, Assistant Vice President, Agri and Fisheries in Invest India. So with this, I hand over the podium to Mr. Dharani Kant.
Thank you so much, Krishna. So I would like to start this session with an interesting quote that one of the founders of a crop protection company spoke. He said that in the world of digital, in the world of digital, agriculture is the last frontier, and I think the time has arrived for agriculture to tap into the potential of digital technologies. So in the last 3 years, especially in India, we have seen a phenomenal uptake of agri-technology, digital technologies, remote sensing, sensors, and different kind of technologies in the agri-tech space. So in today's theme, regarding securing the future of food with technology, we'll be deliberating on how can technology play a role in securing food security of the population. As we see that the world will be tasked with feeding about 9.75 billion mouths by 2050, and with climate change and a lot of uncertainties coming in terms of climate, in terms of markets. So in this ecosystem, how can technology bring certainty to this particular profession of agriculture? With this, I would like to invite Alex to just give us an overview of what is Embrapa doing in Brazil, what has it been doing, and how it has used technology to transform agriculture space. Over to you, Alex.
Very much.
You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be representing Embrapa. And let me step back just to let you know about Embrapa. I don't know if everyone is familiar with Embrapa, but Embrapa is the scientific arm of the Ministry of Agriculture in Brazil. We just turned 48 years old this year, and we started with this mission of transforming the Brazilian agriculture in the 70s. Before, Brazil was a big importer of food, and nowadays we are one of the top 3, top 4 countries that are the main exporters of food. Having said that, it's important to mention why we became this country or this food exporter or this big country in terms of food production. It's based in science. Agriculture in Brazil is based on science. It's about a sustainable production. And just to give you an example of how we transformed agriculture in Brazil, we basically tropicalized crops and animals in Brazil. Let's not forget that we nowadays talk about soybean, about cattle, about wheat, and all these crops are from temperate countries. And by the means of breeding, we have been able to transform these plants and animals to produce a lot, to have a big yield in Brazil in terms of quality as well. So I can come back to other technologies that we've been developing with companies in Brazil, AgriTechs, and in terms of facing the challenges of the Brazilian agriculture. And we've been collaborating not only with Brazilian companies, but also companies from overseas. I think you're muted.
I'm so sorry. Could you just talk a bit about how AgriTechs have been playing an important role in the Brazilian agriculture ecosystem, the unique trends that you have been observing over time that have shaped up in Brazil?
We've been very keen on developing these partnerships and also with AgriTechs, and we've been catalyzing the discussion about technologies that are demanded by the Brazilian agriculture. I can give you a few examples of countless initiatives that range from facilitating support and funding initiatives to foster startups. I will give you just 3 examples, and I invite everyone to visit our website on the internet to explore these initiatives, such as the Inov Aqua, which is a program which gathers different initiatives to foster innovation for the Brazilian aquaculture. You can see there, you can explore the details of this initiative in Brazil, as I only have 1 or 2 minutes to talk about so many things here. We also have this formidable initiative in Brazil, which is called the Ideas for Milk. Dairy Agribusiness Startup Challenge. It's led by Embrapa in partnerships with a number of companies such as AgriPoint, Kick Venture, Cranial, and so on. So many companies, so many startups that are developing based on these ideas for milk, and also ideas for farm. Challenge for entrepreneurs who want to aggregate solutions for sustainable agriculture in Brazil in the areas of, let's say, beekeeping, poultry farming, and so on. So these are just some examples that I'd like to invite you to visit our portal, our website, to see into details. Okay. I think you're muted again.
So this is what happens on these digital platforms. So yeah, I pause. Now I'd like to pose a question to Dr. Rabi. With regards to what has been shaping up in the digital agtech ecosystem in India. What have you been observing in the past few years? And how, especially your forte in remote sensing technologies, what has been shaping up?
Thank you, Adni, and thanks to the organizer giving me this opportunity to be part of this discussion. Coming back to your question, the development, the growth with respect to the remote sensing ecosystem, it is marvelous. It's really excellent. Exponential growth has been taking place over the years, and because of the demand, we have demand for intelligent sensing, demand for quantitative monitoring of the both soil, crop, and also air. So over the years, I think India has celebrated more than 50 years of remote sensing technology, starting from 1969 till now. We have been one of the advanced countries with respect to technological advancement, with respect to resolution, top in terms of optical remote sensing, talk in terms of micro remote sensing, and also its applications in agriculture. So most of the applications is really exemplary. I think you can think of we are one of the lead in globally to show how remote sensing can go to a kitchen garden from a state level, developing a drought policy, developing a crop insurance related loss assessment, all those in quantifiable terms using remote sensing. Coming back to the startup, many startups have been encouraged, mentored by different organizations in the country. One is Indian Council of Agricultural Research, like you could see IIRI itself, and like the PIRAC from the DBT, also from the DST, and also many other institutes have been, CSR also, have been incubating and mentoring how this sensing can be intelligent enough to be successful, starting from land to farm to fork. So, starting from soil health to the food you are eating, to the food you getting, how good is the quality, grading them. So, everywhere the sensor is really getting useful. And I think there are many successful startups right now venturing into this, into the market. So, with respect to the in situ monitoring of the soil health, soil moisture, crop health with respect to biotic, abiotic stress, and also the post-harvest losses, grading, and also quality monitoring. So it's really the kind of environment we have built up over the years now. We are in a very opportunistic stage to take off to a better height to address some of these livelihood issues of the farmer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi. And also, could you touch upon if you have observed any good trends in Brazil that India can pick up from and India can pick up and learn from Brazil? Any interesting things in your observation?
Yeah, I could see India and Brazil, they are having the same challenge, same problem being in the tropical situation, tropical agriculture. The whole globe claims that temperate countries, they will feed the country, but Brazil has failed to prove that. Brazil is the second to world export with respect to the ranking. So what I could see is Brazil has come out with more from less. That means in a same land, like over the years, India also having same, the per capita land availability is getting reduced like anything. Same also with the Brazil is happening. So what they have been doing is intensive cultivation production system. They have it's exponential growth in the agricultural production system. They have proved to be, and you can see the kind of the production with respect to soybean, maize, coffee, and all other. I think they are one of the best with respect to the export and also leading. And what I could see is they have got a good marriage between the technologies, the technocrats with the agri producers. So that's what I could see. And I think Embrapa is playing a key role in that. I think these are some of the lessons we need to learn. Of course, we are nowhere less than that. We have been also putting everything into the farmers' field to see. But the way the mechanism they have and the quick growth they have changed from import to export. That kind of term totally. So same thing also we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rabi. Before I go to Daniel, I would like to introduce Dr. Vilas Tonapl, who is the director of Indian Institute of Millet Research, and he has done some extensive research in in the area of millets and seeds and IPR. Welcome to the forum, sir. And thank you. And Daniel, I would like to ask you a few questions on how, in your observation, what has been shaping up in the Brazilian agri-tech ecosystem, and how is government supporting Brazilian agtech startups?
Okay, greetings to all. Thanks for the invitation to the Ministry of Agriculture. As the previous speaker mentioned, in India, you have a phenomenal growing in the last 3 years. It's not different in Brazil. We are following the Brazilian ecosystem, especially focused on AgriTechs and food techs. And we are measuring together with Embrapa some metrics to understand how many AgriTechs are in the Brazilian ecosystems, in which areas are they performing, where are they distributed across the world, across the Brazil, and some of them in other countries. And in the last 2 years, we had an increase of 40% in the number of AgriTechs in Brazil. Even in the pandemic period, we had like in 2019, more 1,100 AgriTechs, and in the last study, we got more than 1,500 AgriTechs. And then during the COVID period, we could see a starting point, not starting point, but a growing focus on logistics, distribution, traceability, especially when we talk about Brazil as a food supplier, world food supplier, as you mentioned here, but we also need to see Brazil as a food security country. We have big companies here, especially protein processing companies, and then in the pandemic, we could see that the food processing increased. The agri-food tax, especially focused on food security, was starting. Of course, we don't have the flow of funding like India, that the last study from AgriFounders, more than $1.8 billion in investing in Indian startups. Brazil is less than $1 billion, not even 1 billion. But I think Brazil and India, we can start joint efforts, especially in some topics like I could say in the agri-tech, animal agriculture, we will increasingly shift towards regenerative practices, carbon neutrality, premium offerings, and then we are working here hard with plant-based solutions, with cultivated cell meat solutions. So we can start a turning point in our protein industry, offering the world both possibilities. The countries that consume animal protein, Brazil can be a supplier, but also other countries that will be looking for alternative proteins. Brazilian agri-techs are starting to be looking for this market. In the Ministry of Agriculture, we are working together with the ecosystem in the agri-techs, especially food techs, trying to develop the national plan for alternative protein. So, in a summary, we used to say here in the Ministry of Agriculture, the future of agriculture will be the convergence of digital and biological world. Carbon, water, and traceability will be the main trends in the future, and Brazilian startups are aware of this. Of course, we don't have so many, as I mentioned, so many investments like in India, but I think we can start changing experiences, especially with this growing process in Brazil, more than 1,500 startups focused on agriculture, and also more than 20 agri-hubs distributed across the country. So it means we can have a good experience trying to understand how Brazil and India AgriTechs can cooperate.
Great. Thank you, Daniel. And could you just touch upon what kind of incentives or support is government providing to agri-techs in Brazil?
Well, we have been in the Ministry of Agriculture starting some public policies, supporting initiatives, local initiatives, especially in the different productive chains in the agriculture. But our main role is to prepare the environment for private sector. We understand that startups and the venture capital is essential from the private market. We have some experience of public partnership with this, but making the bridge. The public sector can connect research institutes, universities, entrepreneurs from startups, and private funding. Of course, we have some public funding. We are developing with some national partnerships to support and have some calls for startups. But the main role we understand is to prepare the environment for the ecosystem work in the connection with public sector, private sector, and especially research institutes. It doesn't matter if they are public or private, transfer the technology to these startups. So that's the way we can fill the gap and make the market work with these trends and then support and supervision of the public sector.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. Now I'd like to take the discussion towards Dr. Tonapl, and I would invite him to talk a little bit about the millet research he has been doing and how he has been using technology in this particular space.
Yeah, thank you very much. We have been part of Indo-Brazil program on AgriTech Startup Exchange program, 1 week at Delhi and 1 week at Hyderabad. So we hosted them here, linking up to Indian startups. So coming to the key grains, sorghum, pearl millet and millets put together. I think these are the crops common to both Brazil and India. And Brazil sees pearl millet sorghum as a big grain which can really sustain better in the climate change scenario. So for Indian context, we are at the institute under Indian Council of Agricultural Research. We are addressing end-to-end solutions, basically, from crop improvement, climate resilience, the technology development, and the startup ecosystem. Because we thought that crop improvement and provision of good seeds is one component, but unless we create a business around these grains, which are key to dryland agriculture, 48% in India basically is the dryland. So unless we provide value addition, value chain strengthening, and the opportunity for farm gate processing, we will not be creating AgriTechs around the food systems of sorghum and millets. So what we have done basically is to create about 400 entrepreneurs today and 200 startups in millet food processing, value addition, and there are 140 brands in India. So these grains are key for nutrition security, as our Prime Minister says, and he said today. So biofortified grains, what we are evolving in terms of better nutrition, so are the key to the diversified food plate of everybody, because our food plates are revolving around two grains, rice and wheat only. But unless we diversify the nutrition and our food plate, I think the nutrition is not going to be the focus as we need to really look at. So this is what we feel our institute has a bigger role to play in ensuring nutrition security and health benefits through millets.
Just adding to your suggestions, I just wanted to ask you, what is the kind of trends that you see in terms of research and technology coming into the picture of bringing in seeds or seed varieties that are resistant to a lot of stress, like it could be biotic, abiotic, and changing like climatic conditions. So in terms of that, what role and what trends you see in this space?
So the trends, what we see is the next green revolution across the globe needs to come from dryland agriculture. We focused on irrigated agriculture till now. Unless we focus on drylands, I think we are not going to sustain the food security and the nutrition security. So the trends in this particular thing is the moisture conservation and the actual what you call the aspects of the means kind of monitoring of the soil moisture and the productivity growth. That stacking of the yields, vertical things need to happen. Second is the drone technology, which needs to really cover the dryland areas. Third is nutrition in food and agriculture area should be the key, and the startups need to work across, and connecting both Brazil and India in this food ecosystem probably creates a larger epicenter of creating nutrition security across the world. And third is the technology that are there elsewhere need to be also be part of the Indian ecosystem which we are developing, but Brazil and India can play a bigger role. We have seen their agri startups when we hosted here. There are a range of things from biopesticides to the organic agriculture kind of thing. Then the what you call the environment friendly carbon footprint, water footprint, what we need to find in agriculture world over in the climate change scenario. Those technologies need to be part of this ecosystem. That's what I think. If we work together, we can bring the entire range of things for Indian agriculture.
Thank you, Dr. Tonapl. Now I have a question. I would direct the question to Alex, where I wanted to ask him, what are the major challenges that you observe in the Brazilian agriculture ecosystem, and how technologies are, digital tech especially, because Brazil has come a long way in terms of mechanization. Now with digital technology and remote sensing, like what are the key things that you, if you had a good shopping list, what would that be for Brazilian agriculture? You're on mute, Alex.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat, please, again the question?
No, in terms of if there are any key challenges that you observe in the Brazilian agriculture ecosystem, what key technologies do you see will address these challenges? And I would like if you could touch upon areas of remote sensing technology coupled with agriculture mechanization. What would those technologies be?
As a matter of fact, it's hard, to name only one or two, because the Brazilian agriculture is so complex. We are talking about a continental country that ranges from, almost more than 5 million producers' properties in Brazil. Most of them, by the way, that's important information for our Indian partners. Most of them are small farms. I would say almost 80% of those farmers are small farmers, and they demand a lot on connectivity. I think that's a main challenge in Brazil right now, because we have to reach farmers that are located in very remote areas in Brazil. We are developing some technologies in Brazil right now regarding, this connectivity, the use of mobiles in Brazil. That's another point of cooperation that we could develop together with Indian partners in terms of open innovation. Let's say bringing Indian companies that are interested in that development together in Brazil to explore the Brazilian market, but also to explore assets from Embrapa in India regarding the apps for administration of properties, small properties in India, and so on. So, but I would name, if I could say in just one word, the main problem right now, and Daniel is here, can say something even in contrary, I think would be connectivity. That's the main challenge right now in terms of digital agriculture in Brazil.
Thank you, Alex. Dr. Rabi, would you like to quickly comment on that? Like any interesting solutions that you see in the Indian agtech ecosystem that could address this issue that Alex had raised?
The Alex issue was connectivity, lab to land connectivity. We have a system, again, you must be knowing, highly worded weather-based advisories we give twice a week. I think all over country, that's what's going on right now. And also, there are many agri startups who have come out with uh, apps, mobile-based advisories, because 95% connectivity is through the mobile, and connectivity through fiber technologies throughout the village is one of the mandate of the country also and the government of India. So taking the opportunity of that connectivity, if at all we can encash this digital agriculture opportunities, developing the knowledge and sharing with the common man through the mobile technology, that's the best solution. I think we have many agri startups with us, with IRI, and also with ICAR. I think with Dr. Tonapl with IIMR, who have been working with us and connecting to from lab to the land with the value-added advisories and giving a good impact on the livelihood.
Thank you, Dr. Rabi. Dr. Tonapl, do you want to comment on how mobile technology is helping rural farmers?
Yeah, it is a great thing that has happened basically for millets and sorghum and the other ecosystem in the food industry, where the value chains are not still strengthened. One great thing that has happened is the digital buyer seller markets, and wherein you connect the remote producer to the market. That is what is really important today in entire ecosystem of production and consumption. If we can really strengthen the value chain, I think startups have a bigger role to play, a digital platform for these people. And second thing is the improving the farming efficiency and the farm efficiencies would happen with the use of this technology. And third is leveraging the research that has happened basically for clean energy. I think we have a lot of things to work together, both India and Brazil, whether it is the biofuel through sweet stock sorghums and the high biomass sorghums, both first and second generation. I think technologies and platforms are available. These are the three important things I would like to focus upon.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Tonapl. Daniel, quickly, I would like to turn the question towards you. In terms of digital technologies and access to services, agriculture services through mobile phones and services. So is there anything happening that you have seen the startups are working on or government supporting in Brazil?
Yes, for sure. We have some researchers and some data showing us that the producers are very not familiar, but they are going through the use of the technologies and smartphones and devices. And the problem, the challenge, as Alexandre mentioned, is connectivity. In Ministry of Agriculture, we understand connectivity is a means and not an end. So as soon as we can solve this problem, or at least part of this, we will need to put content, we need to take technology, we need to take information and solutions for the process. Even digital inclusion, distance learning, we have a large part of our country small family farmers, and they need to be digital included. So connectivity is a means, and we understand we have different kind of challenge. One is how to include digitally these processors, and the other is how to bring to them high-tech solutions, especially for the big farmers. In the terms of next steps, we have planned here in Brazil still this year a 5G auction, public auction, that will transform all the cities in terms of connectivity. And one of the counterparts of the winners of this auction will be to put 4G in rural areas, at least in the municipalities with more than 600 inhabitants, they will need to put 4G. And we know that agriculture technologies, they perform good in the 4G connection. We also have a program to connect the isolated rural communities called Rural Communities Connected, which we use satellite connection. So with satellite dishes, they can get internet connection, and then we bring to them distant learning, and some other informations and technology learning process. But just to conclude and changing the subject, one of the main trends we can see now in the agri-tech environment in Brazil is the agri-biotech. The innovative agrochemicals, the innovative biological products, the use of biological products, biopesticides, and other inputs. So we are mixing the connectivity as a means to get digital agriculture, but also the biological agriculture. That's why I mentioned first, Minister of Agriculture of Brazil understand the future of our agriculture will be the convergence of digital and biological world.
Thank you, Daniel. You touched upon really important topics, and one of the most important things that we talk about sustainability is regarding soil health. The last question I would direct it towards Dr. Rabi. In terms of what is being done, what have you observed certain trends that are happening in the Indian agtech ecosystem to improve soil health and especially the carbon levels within the soil, and empower farmers to understand soil better?
Harni, there are, India has a big program on soil health curve, and our challenge is how to address that. We don't have that much infrastructure and facilities to come out with every 2 years soil health card of the whole country. So we should go for invasive, non-invasive, rapid methodology, and that's where we require the research and also some innovations. And we, being in IIRI, we have been working on that using spectroscopy, imaging spectroscopy, or also airborne spectroscopy. How soil health, digital soil health mapping can be done, and we have success to some extent. And there are a couple of startups which we are mentoring at IIRI, the Journal Technology Management Unit, who are involved into technology developing soil parameter attribute mapping through some of the quick assessment methodology. And the ICR itself has developed the technology for very quick, low-cost soil health monitoring, which any farmer can afford to, and also it can be put on the block at panchayat level for the services. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi. This was an interesting conversation with all of you. I'd like to thank all of you for sharing your wonderful insights, and I would hand over the panel to Krishna to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dharani. A real nice panel and wonderfully moderated also. Our immense thanks and gratitude to all the eminent speakers here, Dr. Alex, Dr. Ravi Sahoo, Mr. Daniel Trento, and Dr. Vilas Tonapl, both from the Brazilian side as well as from the Indian side. As in the previous panel, this panel also, we terribly missed the lack of time. We just wish that we would have got more time to discuss at length, because some fruitful deliberations actually were coming out of the entire discussions. But we can't help it. We have to move on. So with this, before I conclude this session, I would request my backend team with the speaker certificates here. They are already in front of your screens. Our sincere thanks and appreciation for Mr. Alexandre Amaral, from Embrapa. Alexandre Amaral is advisor at Embrapa's Directorate of Research and Development. Then the next certificate of gratitude is for Mr. Dharani Kant Koganti, our young moderator from Invest India, Assistant Vice President, Agri and Fisheries in Invest India. Thank you, Dharani. We had then our next speaker, Dr. Vilas A. Tonapl, Director of ICAR, Indian Institute of Millets Research. Thank you, Dr. Vilas A. Tonapl, for taking out time here and discussing your thoughts here. And then we had Mr. Daniel Trento, Open Innovation General Coordinator in the Brazilian Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Supply. Thank you, Mr. Trento, for sharing your thoughts here on this panel discussion. And finally, we had Dr. Ravi N. Sahoo, Principal Scientist, ICAR, Indian Agricultural Research Institute. Thank you, Dr. Ravi Sahoo, for taking out time and discussing here on this panel discussion. With this, we come to a conclusion of this panel discussion. And moving on, in this webinar on AgriTalks India-Brazil. We would shortly be joined by our last speaker, Mr. Augusto Pestana, the Chief Executive Officer of Apex Brazil, the Brazilian Trade and Investment Promotion Organization. So with this, I thank you once again, and all the viewers, please keep hooked on. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.